Have you ever wondered if you've lived before or will live again? Are you curious about what happens to your soul after you die? Or maybe you've met someone you're sure you've known before. Or maybe you're just wondering if you have talents, skills, and experiences from a prior life that could help you now. Hi, I'm Brownell Landrum, author of the upcoming We Meet Again trilogy, and I'd like to welcome you to the Life is a Trip podcast. The following story, Jax, is an excerpt from the book The Realm of Unity, written by V.M. Elyse, a metaphysical fantasy novel that explores this question. In this book, join Rose on a whimsical journey through a utopian realm. There, you meet ascended humans called Luminoles and learn the ways of the enlightened world. We hope you enjoy this glimpse into a magnificent future and decide for yourself what is possible.
Chapter 4. Jax. If Jax could find redemption, I knew it was possible for anyone. Orion chatted about the Luminoles of Azure Village as we walked. The grass, still wet from the dew, was soft on my bare feet. I ran my hand over an unfamiliar feathery plant and curiously took a bite of the spicy frond. As I bent down to pet a sleeping goat, an enormous person approached, waving a massive arm in hello. Recognizing them from the night before, I stood up, smiling at the soft energy emanating from the bulbous form. Looking into their brown eyes, I tried to determine if this person was male or female. "This is Jax," said Oriane. "Jax is a master educator and androgynous, which is why you're not picking up a gender. Jax uses they/them pronouns." Scrutinizing the tent-like magenta garment, I wondered how anyone could be so fat with so much healthy food available. Jax bellowed a booming laugh, and I realized that Z had heard my rude internal commentary. I blushed and looked down. "Oh, Rose, there are no inappropriate questions," said Jax. "Curiosity about differences is perfectly natural. The old Earth concept of political correctness is irrelevant here." I relaxed and looked back into Jax's warm eyes. "I'm fat because it makes me happy," Z said simply. I tried to understand, and Jax, grinning ear to ear, offered to share their story. I agreed, curious as to why anyone would deliberately choose to be fat. Settling in, Jax pushed up invisible sleeves, sat on a bench, and took a long, deep breath. "When I was a child on old Earth, I was abused in every way. I never learned how to properly manage my sexuality or my anger. I'm sorry to say I ended up harming women and children in unimaginable ways. I was disgusted with myself. Frankly, I was relieved to end up in prison when I was 20 years old, so I couldn't harm anyone else." Jax paused, looking down, and shook their head. "Even in prison, harming children is considered unacceptable, and I was targeted by gang violence. I hated myself. I hated being a man, and I felt betrayed by my genitals, so I cut them off. Transitioning to female only furthered the violence, and I gained 200 pounds as a means of protection. The weight did nothing because I never fought back. I believed that I deserved the brutal treatment for my sins. My face was always a bloody mess, and I welcomed my living hell as punishment. After being beaten within an inch of death, the guards were forced to put me in solitary confinement for my protection. I was in a small cell with a bed that could barely support my weight, a hole in the ground from my waist, and a small barred window, my only fresh air. My only visitor was a kind rabbi who sat with me once a week. Mostly silent, he transmitted love and acceptance. It was excruciating, but my heart longed for salvation, and slowly I drank in his love drop by drop. I started reading voraciously. I read the Torah, Kabbalah, Buddhist books, anything that I thought might offer salvation, and began to pray. My cell was so small that if I put my arms out, I could touch both walls. The only place I could look was up. I had read about a Buddhist principle called ahimsa, harmlessness, and I yearned to be harmless. The desire became all-consuming. The rabbi planted a seed, and it had started to grow. He made me believe that forgiveness was possible. One day something happened. I was in deep meditation and my heart exploded. It permeated my body and spread out in all directions. It grew to include the entire prison and all the inmates, then engulfed the city and ultimately the entire globe. Eventually, it encompassed the entire universe, and I merged with all that is. Jack stopped talking momentarily. Frozen, I stood, profoundly moved by the impact of Jax's words and the depth of their experience. I felt altered as I took in all that Jax was sharing. Z took a deep breath before continuing. I saw perfection in all things and understood I had orchestrated all my experiences. Even my most heinous crimes had served those I had wronged. Their souls, too, needed that experience. I realized that karmic cycles are real, and that this lifetime aligned with my soul's desire to develop complete harmlessness. My prison cell became the instrument of my liberation, and I fell in love with my life, myself, and everything. Everyone who had ever harmed me had served me in the most difficult way possible, because it is much more challenging to play the role of the perpetrator than that of the victim. I forgave everyone, including myself, and I lost all fear. After that day, I was never the same. I lovingly made my bed every morning with reverence for the mattress and blankets providing me with sleep. I spent hours talking to the ants wandering into my cell and ate my food with deep gratitude for every bite. Each tiny tweet of the birdsong was like the voice of God. The next time the rabbi visited, I saw tears in his eyes. He recognized my transformation and confirmed it with his love. The guards couldn't understand what had happened to me. I was in complete acceptance of every moment. One day, standing in my cell, I felt a rush of energy come from the base of my spine up to the top of my head. My body became light and free, and when I opened my eyes, I was here, staring at the beautiful face of Oriane. Tears welled up, and I had the desire to hold on to Jax forever. Not just for the pains he endured, but for the courage to find liberation. If Jax could find redemption after committing the worst possible crimes, I knew it was possible for anyone. Jax stepped forward and encased me in a tremendous embrace. Compassion and empathy engulfed me, and I sobbed deeply into the soft folds. Z held me for a long time while I cried. I sobbed for the pain of the world and the miracle of redemption. I had never met such a gentle soul. I released Jax, and a small bird landed on their head. Glancing over, I saw two identical girls with long dark braids racing towards us. I recognized the twin in ivory as the one who had brought me soup on my first night. The other twin wore a polka-dotted romper and obviously had won the race. She held out her hand to me in a formal way. "I'm Dara," she said emphatically, and I shook her hand politely. "And this is Akira," said Jax, heaving the twin in ivory effortlessly into their arms. "I brought you the soup," she said, then whispered to the bird sitting on Jax's head. "These are my daughters. I adopted them when they were 5 after their parents died. About 5 years ago, actually," Jax said, looking up to the right. I gasped and put my hand to my chest, looking sadly at the girls. No, said Dara. Jax was always meant to be our parent. Our mom and dad agreed to bring us life, but Jax's soul and our souls wanted to be together. When our parents were ready to evolve, we celebrated with a great party." Dara waved her hand in a big circle, eyes wide. Akira nodded as Jax put her down. "Sometimes I still feel sad, and Jax helps me cry." Akira put her hand on her heart and sighed. Dara suddenly jumped and grabbed Jax's muumuu. "Jax is a shapeshifter, you know," she said. "Z can do all kinds of amazing things. Show her, Jax, please." Dara tugged on Jax's garment, and Akira nodded enthusiastically. With a huge, playful grin, Jax puffed up for a moment, and I thought Z might inflate. But instead, the little nubs of hair all over Jax's head started growing. Long dreadlocks grew until they reached the ground. I gasped and took a step back as the dreadlocks started moving. Snaky tendrils slithered in a strange, chaotic dance upwards and over Jax's head. The girls screamed in delight and tried to crawl up Jax's body to reach the snakes. Jax effortlessly picked up the girls, one with each arm so they could play. I tilted my head, trying to keep from gawking. Dara and Akira giggled and played until the snaky dreads shrank back to their original nubs. Finished with the snaky play, the twins, distracted by a little pig, ran off. Stumbling slightly off-balanced, I regained my footing. "Can you change everything about your body?" I asked. "Yep," Jax stretched their arms out, face flushed and grinning. For now, I choose amorphous genitals and a large body. I have flexibility, strength, and no pain, and it's a lot of fun. One day, I saw Jax in a thin, dark blue male body, said Oriane. When I asked him what prompted the change, Jax, finishing the thought, said, I was exploring if it was time for a new form. But no, one day I'll try something new. For now, this serves me well. How did you know it was Jax if the form was so completely different? I asked. Everyone has a unique energy signature. Jax's is impossible to miss, said Oriane. We all laughed and nodded in agreement. I hugged Jax again, taking the opportunity to look more deeply into their eyes. Such compassion and kindness exuded from those warm brown pools. Humbled by Jax's story, my own seemed insignificant. Oriane had told me I was an energetic match for the community, which meant I was equally amazing. I didn't feel that way just now, but trusted that I belonged. Reaching for my hand, Oriane assured me, Of course you belong, Rose. Everyone here knows that. It's normal to have remnants of unworthiness after lifetimes on old Earth. Those feelings will dissipate in time. I took the opportunity to appreciate the thoughtful design of my little community. Azure Village was organized in a circular flow. The crescent, tucked to one side, served as a welcoming hub. The domes, all equally beautiful, though of different shapes and sizes, had unique features that offered clues about the dwellers. Throughout the gardens, a web of pebble pathways connected the villagers like spokes of a wheel. All trails led to a large open space at the heart of the village. Voices came from behind, and I turned around. A teenage girl in a bright floral skirt trotted towards us with the pygmy goat Chestnut bounding along at her side. Oriane's face flushed with joy as she lovingly reached for the young girl's hand. This is my daughter, Elyse, she said. Elyse greeted me timidly. Spontaneously flooded with waves of love, a flash of recognition washed over me, then disappeared. Full of grace and content in her skin, Elyse looked down at Chestnut. The goat nudged my leg, and I reached down to offer a brief scratch. Chestnut wanted to say hi to you, she said, and so did I. Elyse knelt and buried her face in the goat's soft fur, her untamed blonde tresses spilling forward. We have traveled together for many lifetimes, she said, still petting the goat. I gaped at Oriane in bewilderment as Elyse and Chestnut bounded off. Why can't I remember? I asked. You've chosen to forget certain aspects of your life on old Earth so as not to hinder your growth, she said. Your memories will return in time as you need them. Elyse, several feet away, picked a star fruit and held it so Chestnut could stand on his hind legs. She laughed as Chestnut jumped, reaching for the fruit. Oriane touched my shoulder softly. Don't worry. It takes a long time to adjust to the new world. You're in a swift learning process. All your questions will be answered in perfect right timing.
Thank you for listening to The Realm of Unity, written and narrated by V.M. Elyse. For more information, please go to therealmofunity.com. Available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookbaby.com. Hi, this is Brownell. For more of these transcendental tales, please join the Life is a Trip group on Facebook and check out my amusing and enlightening story entitled The End, which you can find on my website, brownelllandrum.com. That's BROWNELLLANDRUM.com. And please look for my upcoming novel trilogy entitled We Meet Again. It's a story about a famous couple reincarnated today to help solve a centuries-old mystery that will change the world.